Well, we are lucky enough to have the Moose on our call this week. Daryl Johnston, former Cowboys fullback and obviously now Fox Sports broadcaster.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. We were literally just chatting 1 second ago about how this is your first time to the new facility. What do you make of the digs?
It's amazing. It's amazing. And because of free agency, it's kind of a little bit of that college flair where there is that recruiting element to it. Yeah. So you get to some of the places where they've evolved from the previous facility that they trained at to the new ones. And we'd heard about this one, while we were at Eden Prairie. And so this is my first time here. When you pull up, it does not disappoint. It's fantastic.
I saw that you were just at practice a little while ago, catching up with some guys. Who was someone that you spotted that you were excited to get a chance to chat to?
I wanted to come see Jalen Redmond. He came out of the Spring Football League that we've been a part of for the last 4 years. He's one of our really, really good stories. Jaylen and Dondre Tillman are kind of our two defensive linemen that have come out of our league. I think we made the splash with the Brandon Aubreys and the Jake Bates and Daniel Whelan, some of the specialists around the league, long snappers, punters, kickers, but to get defensive linemen to actually go from our spring football league and not only make it to the NFL, but become extremely productive and sign that big contract.
That's cool.
And really kind of shift the trajectory that their life is going to be on going forward. So I wanted to make sure I got a chance to say hello to him because, watching the film, it's just like, boy, look at 61. Holy smokes.
He's having a great season. Yeah. And you're obviously referencing the UFL, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you think Jalen Redmond has done a great job of to be able to be a consistent player on the Vikings front?
I think it's the word that you just said, consistent, right? Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing. You don't have those ebbs and flows where you're up and down. Mm-hmm. Just sitting there talking to Ryan, a little bit during practice too, and he talked about that, the ability to anchor in the run game. He goes, it's so important the way we play our defense that we can't afford to be knocked back, and Jaylen is really one of our better guys at just not giving an inch in that run game. And then you see what he does in the pass game. He's got great lateral quickness. It's such a cool story when you're sitting there and you wonder if your football career is over because of health conditions, and then somebody gives you a shot and you pass. Just going to do your physical, right?
Yes.
You got your fingers crossed. Am I gonna pass this and have the opportunity to play? So couldn't be happier for him.
That's awesome. Well, you're speaking of the assistant general manager Ryan Grigson here. I actually spoke to him during training camp about how this team identifies a lot of guys that maybe the rest of the league hasn't seen tape on, and he kind of nerds out over the film.
Gosh, yeah.
And he's like, it doesn't matter if you're the 90th man on the roster. By the end of training camp, you may not be number 90. And Jalen Redmond is such a great example of that. I'm glad you guys got to catch up.
Without a doubt. And he's always been great at looking at the alternative leagues. And that's one of the great things that Ryan is kind of your point. Hey, they're out there. It's just our job to go find them.
Of course. So now focusing on the game on Sunday, you're on the call alongside Kevin Kugler and Allison Williams. And this is kind of a team that really got a lot of confidence from Sunday's win against the Lions. What have you seen in that game that they can carry over in order to be successful on Sunday?
I just think the fact that you go and you win in Detroit for the first time in 5 years, I think, right? Or 5 games?
It's been a while. In Detroit,
so, that number one is going to be something that's always there in the back of your mind. When are we going to get over this hurdle? And in a season where you probably didn't think this was going to be the year, you probably thought it was going to be last year, to be able to do that, I think is very, very impressive. We've seen Detroit a couple of times this year already, and they're a great team.
Yeah.
And that was a tremendous win. It really was. But what you saw was the defense that we saw last year. That's going to be the driver when you make that big switch at quarterback, and you got a young guy coming in, and it's only his third start, and he's still kind of learning. He's building that catalog. Being able to recognize and recall. It's very, very different than what you had last year with Sam Darnold, who's seen a lot of that stuff. So this offense is still trying to find its feet, get healthy, and the ability to have the defense to also get healthy and get back and then kind of be the driver and then let the offense kind of play off of that. Special teams, that one little hidden thing that nobody really talks about, block field goals, block punts. We see it so much this year, how that's impacting the game, returns. I thought last week, the best they've played as a team in all 3 phases.
When you look at the defense, is it the health that has changed the way that they are able to play more consistently, or is it something else that you see?
I think there's a couple of guys around the league that when they're out of the lineup, it just, the energy's not there. Or George Kittle in San Francisco. That San Francisco offense is just going to be a little bit different when George Kittle's not there. I think Andrew Van Ginkel is one of those guys.
Okay. Yeah.
That energy that he brings, the versatility that he has on the edge and how Coach Flores can use him. And then it's a couple of guys inside getting kind of comfortable with what this system is. You go out and get big names and bring them in and just drop them into the interior of the defensive line. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a little bit of time to kind of get used to the way they do things here in Minnesota in Coach Flores' defense. So it's just a process. And I know I get frustrated when people talk about that word. You hear that word and you're like, oh my God, here we go with the process again. But it really, there's so much truth to it that it's, and when people talk about process, just talk about time on task. That's really what it becomes. And just getting comfortable in what your role is going to be in that defense.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the process because everyone wants to. I'm just kidding. But there is one when it comes to starting J.J. McCarthy. Yeah. He's battled injuries for his first 2 years, and now he got a really incredible win under his belt. What have you seen from him that breeds confidence in what he can do moving forward?
The passion that he has for the game. I think you're going to hear a lot of talk about intangibles, leadership, the passion that you see on the field, the big moment plays. The one thing that we need to see more from J.J. McCarthy is the consistency through the course of the game. 2 wins on the road in the division is very, very impressive. Chicago's a much different team this year than they were last year. That was an impressive win, especially the way it started.
Exactly,
to be able to hang in there, right? And to be able to have your teammates believe that you're the guy that can still get this done when you've struggled. And so, it was the back end of the game that he played at a high level in Chicago. It was the front end of the game that he played really well in Detroit. So for me, I want to see JJ start to become a little bit more consistent with his play. And you've got some great people to lean on here. And that's one of the big things for a young quarterback is getting in sync with the Justin Jeffersons and the different guys that are there for you on the offensive side of the ball, being able to lean on that run game a little bit. So once he gets comfortable, in this offense, and we'll get right back to process again, right? But for young quarterbacks, I hope he knows how fortunate he is to be here with Kevin O'Connell.
Sure.
Because there's a different thing that goes on with the people that come from the Sean McVay tree and the Kyle Shanahan tree, and we see it with Kevin and we see it with Liam Cohen down in Jacksonville. These guys are really, really unique in what they do, and we've had the opportunity to talk to Daniel Jones and talk to Sam Darnold and what was it about this group?
Yeah,
what do they do?
Yeah.
They said there's 4 very, very powerful words in the English language that we always make sure our quarterbacks know, and that is, I believe in you.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just, it's not, everybody thinks it's X's and O's and all this different stuff, but it's really kind of building them up and giving them the confidence and empowering them because you got to turn the game over to them. They're the guys that are going to be out there on the field making those decisions at the line of scrimmage. Do I get out of this one? Do I stay in this one? Can I audible and move over here?
Sure.
So that recognition and everything that they're doing, I think that this staff, those group of coaches, they do it at a level of detail that I think is better than anybody else in the NFL.
Oh, wow. That's high praise coming from you.
Yeah.
And it really wouldn't be a complete interview with you if I didn't ask you about the fullbacks in this game because, come on. We've got
CJ
2 of them. Ham, we got Pat Ricard. Ooh. What more can you ask for? How much does that excite you to see that these teams really see that this is a very crucial role and a spot on our roster?
Yeah, I've been so happy since last season with kind of the return of the run game into the NFL, and we're seeing more and more of it again this year, and we're hearing it from the coaches. We did Indianapolis this year, and Sean Steichen will say we throw to score, but we run to win. So everybody knows the value of the run game, and then the fullback position, in my opinion, is the key to that. And it's hard to ask a guy that puts his hand down and is on the line of scrimmage or even offset in a wing to come back and play the fullback position, because the collision that's going to happen from the fullback position is going to be an 8-yard run. We're 8 yards apart. We're running at each other, and up here you're 1.5 feet apart, and you're going to use technique and leverage and different things. For me to go up there and play that position is not fair because that's completely different than back here. This is a mentality at the fullback spot. That's a technician up on the line of scrimmage. So I love the fact that we're seeing guys like C.J. Ham and Patrick Ricard kind of being the leaders of the position over the last couple of seasons because it is critical. there's a unique player that is in the NFL. He's been here for about 10 or 12 years now. That inside defensive tackle that's 6'5", 315 pounds, that can run people down in a 15, 20-yard space laterally. And he's going to beat your offensive lineman from time to time very quickly. And to have a fullback there that absorbs him and allows Aaron Jones not to have to make a move 2 yards deep in the backfield. That C.J. Ham is, I'm going to cover him up for you. You don't worry about him. And that was one of the most important things for us. And we got to the point in Dallas where the offensive line would miss and they would climb to the second level because that's where they knew I was supposed to be. I got your guy, you go get my guy. And then Norv Turner would be like, hey, I like that blocking scheme. That's kind of like a trap. And it would just evolve from stuff that happened during the game.
So are you going to be able to say a few words before the game, maybe with CJ or Pat or anything?
Yeah, I try to get out and when we got regular fullbacks and talk to him. I even Andrew about his neck and how he's doing there because it was a neck that ended my career. And just if he had any questions for me, I've talked to a couple of guys around the league during my time as a broadcaster, and the coaches come in and say, would you mind sharing with them? I'm like, absolutely not. I had to go through it, so if there's any questions that they have, I'd be more than happy to sit down and chat with them.
Well, Daryl, thank you so much. We are so excited to have you on the call, have you back here in Minnesota to be able to view this amazing building, get to know our coaches and players.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the stadium. It's
so
such a hidden gem. It's so much fun. It's so much fun.